the major questions in campaign 2012 right now is whether Mitt Romney will ask Florida Senator Marco Rubio to join his ticket as vice president. He is the son of Cuban immigrants, and his growing numbers of supporters hope that one day he may be the first Cuban American in the White House. Okay? So you can begin your campaign now. He has written let me just tell you, he's written a very readable book. It's called Marco Rubio, An American Son. It's
fantastic.
Really, I like this book. Okay, so.
Only half of them flop, though. So.
You have to win them. Win them over today. So you have been on some of the Sunday shows, and you have, no matter what anybody asks you, you say you're not going to discuss whether or not you will be a candidate for vice president. So I'm not going to waste my time. Because you're not going to tell me anything, right?
Well, I was waiting to come on here. No, I'm kidding.
Let me ask you this. Okay, because you said you're not going to discuss it.
You know, I think that Governor Romney deserves the space and the time to make that decision without that the speculation that goes around it.
So I won't push it. But this is my question. If you are asked, if one is asked, how's that? If one is asked to be a vice president, is one not obliged to accept?
Well, not if you're not discussing it, because I'm not discussing the process at all.
He doesn't waste time with this. He doesn't want to do it.
No, look, he's going to make a great choice. That I can promise you.
No, so I tried. I mean, you can't sit here and not try.
Well, I know, you know, in the book, you were talking about that your parents had immigrated from Cuba in 1956. They settled in Florida. Now, they came from a hard life because your mother was a maid, your father was a bartender. How did this shape your life?
With them going through American dream.
To
Vegas, actually, they came back to Miami.
You know, the thing about it, and one of the reasons why I wanted to write the book is because one of the debates we're having is what is the American dream? And some people think it's about making millions and millions of dollars, which is, I suppose it can be if that's what you choose. For my parents, the American dream is giving me the chance to do the things they couldn't. And my dad wanted to be a businessman. I talk about it in the book. That didn't work out. My mom wanted to be an actress. And she did some actually little local community theater, but never really worked out. But I think the thing I most realized when I sat down to actually write it is that my parents were once my age. And when they were my age, they had hopes and they had dreams and they had things they wanted to do. And for some multiple reasons, it became impossible. Their whole life became about giving us the chance to do the things that they couldn't.
And look what happened to their son. That's great.
You know, go ahead. What?
I was going to ask you, talking about immigration, because it's a big question right now. And I'm curious, do you think there should be a path to citizenship for illegal aliens?
The problem with immigration is really complicated, and I try to touch upon it in the book from my point of view. I can see both sides of the debate. It's not a black or white, yes or no issue. On the one hand, these are human beings, the vast majority of whom are coming here in search of a better life. As I say in the book, they are doing exactly what all of us would do, any of us would do, if our kids were hungry, if our children had no opportunity. On the other hand, we have to have immigration laws, and they have to be respected. And I think we need to remind people that 1 million people a year permanently immigrate to the U.S.
So do you have a solution?
No other country.
Are you against the DREAM Act?
Well, I'm against the DREAM Act the way it's written. I'm actually working on an alternative. I think it's too broad. I think it encourages illegal immigration in the future. But I do think there's an alternative to it, which we've been working to develop.
Tell them what it is. I don't think people know
the alternative?
What the DREAM Act is.
The DREAM Act is basically a bill that allows kids who were brought here by their parents and who now are undocumented through no fault of their own the opportunity to stay in the country. The way the DREAM Act does it is it awards them citizenship through a special path. The way I would approach it is I would give these kids a student visa so they can stay here and study, a work visa, and after about 10 years, they would be in the same position as any other non-immigrant visa holder. They can be petitioned for through the regular system,
but what
not a
about
special
the kids who were born here?
Well, the kids who are born here are U.S. citizens. They don't have an issue.
What do you think about the employment situation right now for the Hispanic community? I mean, the president just made moves in terms of trying to pass a bill to allow young kids to stay here, right? If they're under the age of...
It's an executive order, I think, if they're under 16 when they came.
Yes. So do you think that in terms of jobs here in the Hispanic community, how do you think this administration has done?
Well, the statistics tell us that unemployment is higher than the general population. But look, the debate right now that we're having, here's the good thing. The Republicans and Democrats do agree on something, whether it's clear or not. And the debate is about how do we grow our economy. Now the real debate is about how do you do it. The Democrats have one way of thinking about it. Republicans have another. And I think the country deserves an open debate about what's the best way to grow the economy. Now, I have strong opinions on it. They're different from the president's. But that's why we have elections.
But I want to talk about something that's very personal in this book that's unusual. And that is you talk about the price that a political person pays with the family, with the wife and the
I thought you were
children?
going to ask me with my wife's 1,200 shoes.
Does your wife have 1,200
I'm
shoes?
kidding. No. Well, that I know of.
Well, I thought maybe this was more important.
No.
Okay. And that is, you have a whole chapter on the worry you have about being able to balance your career as a politician and the family. You're away a lot, you have to leave them, so forth. And you even bring up the question, should people in politics maybe not be married and have children, which is very far-fetched. But it's a big worry of yours.
Yeah, it is.
How do you balance your marriage and, what do you have, three?
Four.
4 children. How do you balance?
I'm not sure I always get it right, because I have a job that wants me 100%, and I have a marriage and children that deserve 100%. And sometimes it runs into each other, and I worry that I have so much to do that I don't do any of those 3 things right.
Biggest regret?
Women have this problem all the time.
Absolutely.
Now you do.
No, I think but it's not just me. I think it's talking about how I handle it. I have friends that aren't in politics, but their boss tells them, can you come in on Saturday?
Right.
And they know what that means. If you want a promotion, you come in on Saturday, but your kid has a t-ball game.
Yeah, and
And
you have a vote.
And I actually have it better than most people, because I get to control my schedule to some extent. Look, I don't know if I get that right, and that's my biggest worry. And I think what I think about is, we had 100%. When my dad came home, he was a bartender, but when he punched the clock, he was home. When I'm home, sometimes I'm not home. I'm on the email. People are calling me. They want to know things. I worry about that because I know that it'll have consequences. Just like my parents and the impact they had on my life reflects on the life I live today, that's not going to be any different for my kids. That's a big worry, and the book talks about that struggle. And it ends with a story that Leahy, who was a Democrat, shared with me. When he was a younger senator, he had a chance to go somewhere with the president, but it conflicted with his kids, and he turned it down. And he told me, he doesn't even remember what the event was, but his kids will never forget the day he chose them over the president.
And you chose not going to Africa to be with
that's
your
how the
kids.
book ends.
Well, listen, if ever you are president, one of the advantages is, I'm ahead. One of the advantages is that you can come home every night and have dinner with your wife and kids.
They all live in the same house.
They all live in the same
Yeah,
house.
they do. I heard about that.
Senator, it's a pleasure to see you. We
Thank
hope
you guys
we'll be
for having
seeing
me. I'm
more
really
of
grateful
you.
you would have me.
Right, and when you decide that you will accept the vice presidency, it would be thoughtful of you to come back with us.
Thank
We
you,
thank
guys.
you very much. Senator Marco Rubio, members of our